Hi, my name is Tara Katchaturoff, and I'm the host of Michigan Entrepreneur, where we feature businesses from startup to stellar. Today, I have as my special guest Ken Lee, a confidence and mindset coach. Welcome to the program, Ken.
It's great to be here, Tara. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, I'm really excited to talk to you today because we're going to talk about two subjects that are really important for success in life. But before we do that, I'd like to take a step back and talk about you, Ken. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you came to be a coach?
I'd be glad to. I'm a husband, a father of three, and a career and confidence coach. And how I became to be a career and confidence coach starts in fifth grade. My my. If you've ever watched or heard about Amy Chua, she's the author of Tiger Mom. My mom is not a tiger mom, but she is a first generation, as well as my dad, Chinese, coming from mainland China over to Taiwan and then here to the States. So even though she wasn't a tiger mom, and I there is a certain expectation as the first generation, and she had the expectation, even if subtle cues, to for me to be a doctor or a scientist. And one of those subtle cues was sending me to summer camp in fifth grade to a science and math camp. Mind you, I'm not actually that talented to be a and it's in a gifted like genius program, and I'm not being humble at all. She took my entrance test, so those are the kind of subtle cues, not forcing me to study and be the best, but kind of just putting me in the right direction. So you could imagine with cues like that, it would be hard to ignore what she wanted because she always said, I wanted to be a doctor. You can be a doctor. You can be anything you want if it's a scientist or a doctor. And so my last kind of piece de resistance was in high school where I'd won history prizes, not science prizes, because that was my interest. And I wanted to go to the University of Chicago to study history.
Mhm.
And we took a campus tour visit, and when I said, this is great, this is where I want to go, she goes, I don't know how to get there. Now, this is pre-internet, but still we got there the first time. But her excuse was, I don't know how to actually get back to the University of Chicago, which is, I at the time knew it was false. And she goes, why don't you go to an Ivy League school and you can study something there? So I still had free choice when I went to Cornell University, but I thought, well, my mom clearly doesn't want me to do the path I'm doing. So I majored in chemistry,
Mhm.
then went to Purdue to get a PhD. And this is where it really came, when you're getting a PhD, and I know plenty of not intelligent PhDs, but it really came to a head that science neither was my inclination in terms of my talents or my interests. And I bailed. I bailed in my fifth year. It was a very, very difficult time, very depressing. Ended up in public relations, and that was because that is something that was more of interest to me, but still something wasn't quite right. Um, Something about PR. I guess I've always liked to help people directly. PR is, helping a client market a product, and it might be a product that you don't believe in, like cheesecake bites. And so, finally, I went from PR to combining science and PR. And I didn't do that because I love science and PR. In fact, if you heard my story just now, I didn't like science or PR, but it was allowed me to land a job where my skill set was very special and unique. I had a very special set of skills that I could apply in PR and science, and was doing that for 14 years, 20 years altogether in public relations and then science communications. But you know what, Tara, I didn't like science, as I mentioned, didn't like PR. To the outside world, I was perfect for this job. But the other thing that held me back was what I only found out later was this mindset confidence piece. And why would I be working late one night when the boss asked me on a Friday night to make some copies for our client the next Monday? It's because I couldn't say no. People pleasing. And I happened to miss my best friend's wedding doing that. And that was to take place on Saturday. People pleasing is a form of having some self doubts about yourself, not being able to set boundaries. In fact, the root is a lack of confidence, perfectionism, also self-doubt, imposter syndrome. I didn't even want to have a performance review because I was afraid of any sort of criticism. I didn't know that at the time. I just felt life was really sucky and depressing until I ran into a life coach quite by accident,
Hmm.
working on a PR assignment. And
Oh, you found it through a PR assessment. That's interesting.
isn't that cool?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was
See,
serendipity. It was
steps
random.
lead you there. Like,
Isn't that
you're on the
and that
path.
exactly. And that's kind of why I became a career and confidence coach, is because
Yeah.
people can blame, like I was blaming my parents for the longest time. And I was, or blaming myself, thinking, what's wrong with me? Right. Like people with imposter syndrome don't blame, they just blame themselves. They think something's wrong with them. And I don't want people to blame their parents. I don't want people to blame some sort of external circumstance. I do want them hopefully to find out and come ahead and then find the beauty in that life was actually set up to be perfect. And if you hear my story, I think I make, if I could say so, the perfect career and confidence coach, because I've gone through the pivots, I've gone through the challenges, and I can certainly empathize with many of my clients who are suffering from a lack of confidence.
And the thing is that so many of the things that happen to us, they happen when we're really young and
Yeah,
we have a certain decision set and mindset at that time. And unfortunately, that mindset stays with us and we live into that story and we
yeah,
keep enforcing it until we get older and we find out, uh-oh, I'm using my 5-year-old mind to make, 29-year-old or 50-year-old decisions now that I'm that age.
right,
That's
right,
the big problem. So when you came across this coaching company,
yeah.
um, what was there a tipping point? Was there some sort of aha moment when you thought, "Oh my gosh, I found it, Eureka"?
Oh, yeah, it was. I guess I left off my story getting a life coach, and then I'm like, wow,
Oh,
this
so you hired one.
I
So you
hired
hired one
so
to work.
yeah.
I see.
So the person I ran into who was a life coach, I was still at my job and I was telling her how depressed I was,
Mhm.
and she says, "Oh, I'm a life coach in addition to this other assignment that I had her working with because I was in marketing and she was writing for me." And then I got life coached out of my depression, out of my issues of low self confidence, and then I was like, well, this is actually what I've always wanted to do, because I've always mentored people. I've always, worked with economically disadvantaged people who wanted to better themselves through, whether it was a teacher or I tutored a non-sighted student in biochemistry. I've always wanted to help people directly. And I feel like coaching is what I was actually looking for. But then I had my own doubts there, because she kept quoting like Sun Tzu and the prayer or serendipity. I don't even know what that was. It's some sort of prayer. And I'm like, how do you, like, I felt like a coach, how you sometimes like that's the model. And so I thought that's the models. I'm
Oh,
terrible.
yeah, that's not yeah, everybody's got their own style. Yeah, that's not my style quite,
But
but
that's not your style.
yeah.
It worked on me because I'm always impressed with people who can quote things from friends and things like that. And I'm like, I don't know if I can quote things. And I had all these self-limiting behaviors, and then she coached me over that. And then she coached me over one last thing, and I took can you be a life coach, like some online test, right? Like some online test can really tell you what to do with your life, but that's what I took, and it said I wasn't X. And then she coached me over that, and then so after those couple of things, and only until recently, Tara, I really stepped into it and going like, this is for me, because I took actually a careerexplorers.com
Mhm.
test. So for any job seekers out there, because I do coach those people, it's a great website to tell you based on your interests and talents what to do. It said you should be a life coach 100%. So I did get
Wow.
confirmation of that recently.
Nothing like affirmation, right?
Right.
Wow. So what kinds of people are you working with specifically in coaching? Well, who do
Yeah.
you coach?
Um, I coach anyone who's stuck in their careers or building a business uh, due to issues related to low self confidence. And I mentioned some of those um, problems that would manifest itself if you have low self confidence, like perfectionism, which also looks like procrastination. You keep like not wanting to do it, or you do it and you keep working at it. because you're a perfectionist, and that's a symptom of low self-confidence. And it seems to me my clients initially were from my old field. Like I've coached scientists, I've coached marketers, my career, and then science marketers, which is not ironic at all since that is in my LinkedIn network. But now I've coached TV producers. I've recently coached a banker, landscaper. So anybody can have challenges with their confidence, and my job is to move them past that self-doubt into feeling really good about where they are, and be more decisive.
Yeah. All right. So, what we're going to do right now, we're going to talk about two different areas. We're going to jump into mindset first
Yeah.
and talk a little bit about that because that is at the crux of a lot of the work that you do. So, for entrepreneurs or even careerists, can you talk to a little bit about how having a strong mindset really sets you up for success?
Yeah, I really like Richard Petty's quote that will help us frame this conversation. Richard Petty is a psychologist at Ohio State University, and I am going to throw a quote here because it's a little bit easier for me to remember. Confidence is a stuff that transforms thought into action. Confidence is the stuff that transforms thought into action. So when we talk about mindset and confidence and how that can help entrepreneurs or anybody, if you understand that confidence transforms thought into action, you understand that confidence is kind of this allows you to be more decisive. That's a word that I like to use. And what we need as entrepreneurs, especially, is to make quick decisions and be not afraid to fail. So it's not necessarily better decisions, but making more quicker, faster decisions so that, for example, to step into something and then also realize when that thing's not working to step out of it and then try something new. So that's what confidence allows us to do.
Yeah, and one good thing about that is that, money loves momentum, and the
Yeah,
faster you do things, the more money you can make,
yeah,
or you could also put the brakes on, money drains. So there is
exactly.
a direct correlation between quickness and of thought and decision and getting, the right things happening in your business or your career. I mean, you don't want to stay at a job that's like draining you, just as much as you don't want to make bad decisions in business. So when it comes to mindset, what do you think how do you think it makes a difference in, um, how people perceive the world around them?
Yeah, I quick story. I don't know how quick it is, but it's there's this husband and wife, and the wife is looking out. This story's from the 50s. I apologize, but she's looking out, and the neighbor's putting out laundry, and she's like, "Why is all the laundry dirty?" To her husband. The husband's just sipping his coffee, and then day after day, she's looking out the window. Neighbor's putting out the dirty laundry until one day, the wife says, "Oh my goodness, husband! Finally, the neighbor put out clean laundry." And the husband said, "Actually, it's because I cleaned the windows." So that's what happens when we have a dirty mindset. Everything looks dirty, even if it's clean. And from my own life, I mentioned being afraid of performance reviews because I was afraid of criticism. There was one performance review I actually did make because I had skipped several performance reviews. This one I made it.
I'm surprised they let you do that,
They
actually.
don't want to pay me, right? Like if you can get good work and not pay the person and they'll still stay there, then I mean that maybe that's me interpreting a little bit, but that's what I think is like he's doing good work. Let's just continue to leave him alone. So in this performance review, I had a great boss. Why was I afraid of criticism? It's just my own internal critic talking. And in this kind of performance review, I write the review and then he writes a review and then we compare notes. He wrote a glowing review, all fives. I wrote a putrid review, all ones, right? Five is the best performance,
Oh
one is the
my.
worst. Yeah. And so you can see that from the outside, my clothes were clean. My work was clean.
Right, right.
From the inside, I couldn't see that. So I was
Yeah.
self-critical. So you can see how that makes a difference if your mindset is not in a good place.
I'm kinda curious, did he offer any, coaching around that when
Well, yeah,
in your perception of your work?
what he said was, I actually wanted to promote you. So we cannot take your, because you take both reviews and give it
Right,
to the boss for final
right,
sign off.
right.
So he did not coach me except to say, rewrite your review so that we can get you a promotion. I do think, though, this same boss, when I showed perfectionist tendencies, didn't coach me, but did, I would say, give me concrete advice. Like, you could have done that in half the time. Now, there's a difference between coaching and uh,
Tell
feedback,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right. So, and I don't think most bosses are actually trained to be
right,
coaches,
right,
but only now do I understand his feedback was valid. But at the time, what happened is, if you, that kind of feedback with my kind of mindset, what did I do? I was resentful of him, even though I should have been grateful. It was
right.
just the way he delivered that quote coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's still lessons to learn even years later.
Right.
So
Yep.
when you think about, the world that we live in right now, the changing world of work,
Yeah.
AI, all the stress and anxiety everybody has, just from the standpoint of mindset, what is a tip or two you could give folks to enhance their mindset, to clean it up, so to speak? What would you say?
Yeah. I remember the one of my favorite shows, Tara, is The Office, and one of my favorite characters, because he went to the same Ivy League school that I did, Cornell, was Andy Bernard. And Andy, towards the last seasons, when they were kind of getting to the end and everybody knew it, he throws out a line like, "I just wish we knew when the good old days were ending, when we were in them." And the thing is, we can't step in a time machine and go back to the good old days. Those are past, but we
I think they
can.
ended in 2020, but that's besides the
Pre-COVID.
point.
Yes. Now, some people love remote stuff, and we could talk about that as well, mindset around that. But the what we can do is take a time machine to the future, and we can look at the future and go, who do we want to be in the future? And me, I have very specific. I actually created a vision video for myself. It's more how I saw my life in 5 years. And that actually, that 5 years, Tara, is now 2025, because I
Wow.
created the video in 2020. And I started off with three emotions. One of them was awe. I just love the emotion of awe. And I remember I was thinking about this, and I was with my son, and it's like, you can't look in the past, but you can look in the future, and you can feel that now. You can feel that emotion of awe now. And the way you do that actually is kind of now I'm layering in Richard Petty's quote: confidence is stuff that transforms thought into action. And so awe, like confidence, is a feeling. So you just have to think what would lead to that feeling. And for me, it was just like, I just want to just look at my son in wonder, because I was with my son, and then everything transformed. Tara, was amazing. Like, hearing his little feet go up and down the sidewalk when I opened up the gas tank, and he just like squeaked in delight, and I was living in awe. So I don't know if that's a mindset trick, but just being able to step into the future, understand what feelings you want to have in the future, and have that now, by just thinking, thoughts can drive the feelings. And I had the thought, I want to have that wonder right now. And it's suddenly the world transformed for me.
I love that. And I actually have used exercises like that with myself, because my father actually taught me those things when I was a child, to record the feeling you're having now, so
Oh
you
my
can pull it
goodness.
back at any time you want. And
Yeah.
I've been pulling back on those recordings for years, um, to bring back those feelings, because it is so important, because it gets down into our subconscious,
Yeah.
and then it happens to, start manifesting,
Yeah.
because of the efforts we've taken. Those are great. Those are great tips. I'd like to talk a little bit more about confidence in our remaining time. So confidence, I know you had the quote around that, but if there was ever a time when we need confidence to move forward in the world of work and our careers and our businesses, it would be now.
Yeah.
Um, what are some myths people have about confidence, or some misconceptions they have about confidence, and what would you say instead?
Yeah, I think there's several myths about confidence. I think one is confidence genetic? Or is it nature or nurture? Because some people look around and they are just seem to be these bold people, people who can uh, entertain or who can speak, and people are attracted to them. And there is some truth to that. There is some truth that confidence is rooted in the genes. What I'd like people to know that is that nurture or confidence as a skill plays a much greater role. And I'm quickly going to talk to you about Angela Duckworth. She has a definition for success.
Hmm.
Much better if I could write it, but uh, talent times effort equals skill, skill times effort equals success, right? So if you heard me, the talent is the genes, but if you heard effort, I said that twice. And that's where confidence can come in. And if you practice confidence, you can hone and make your effort really, really strong. That's where you can really focus on. You don't have to be born with confidence, I guess. You can learn it. So the other thing I'd like to say is that a lot of people think that you do something, it begets confidence, and there's some truth to that because you're reinforcing um, what you already believe. But I think it's more that, as Richard Petty, bringing him up again, is that confidence transforms thought into action. So confidence begets competence, meaning you have the confidence to do something, you do it, and then that increases your confidence. So that's the second thing. And I guess the third thing is when I coach people, some people, I guess they get so confident that they're worried that they're good, arrogant, which is interesting to me. I'm like, wow, I've coached them so well that they feel like they're worried now about arrogance instead of being a lack. They feel too much. And what I just want to say to them is arrogance, number one, is not confidence. Arrogance is a feeling you're superior to everyone. And Adam Grant has a nice way of putting it in terms of what you want is confident humility. That is being confident in yourself, in your own capabilities, but being okay in understanding that you don't know everything and not being confident in that and making sure you ask about that. So that's confident humility, certainly separate than arrogance. So those are some of the myths and misconceptions, Tara.
One of the things that I have found, and we often see this meme running around online, is about the people who often know the least or are ignorant or really missing the boat on some of the things. They go out there and they are full on confident in what they're doing, and all of the rest of us are kind of looking at them, wondering like, "Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed for them." You know what I
Yes,
mean?
right.
And then the
Yeah.
people who have like PhDs and this and that,
Yeah.
they're scared to speak up. They're scared to express themselves because it's getting back to the confidence and their mindset and their lack of self-esteem.
Yeah.
It's going back to those other things that haven't been handled yet. But it is interesting. Some people fight confidence their whole life and they've got degree after degree after degree, and it's just sad. But we all get to where we're supposed to get to in our life journey, right?
Mhm.
We get there
Exactly.
eventually. Talking about confidence a little bit more, there was something you said about people get confidence by taking action. And this kind of ties back to the whole thing of perfection because many people will not take that first step.
Mm.
You know what I mean? They
I
won't
do.
take the first step to get the confidence they need
Yeah.
because perfection is getting in the way and then they get stuck.
Yeah.
So there is this insidious like system that is operating, and you have to just pop them out of that because otherwise you just you're never going to do. I mean, I have
Yeah.
worked with, as a contract coach for a large organization and worked with people. Um, they were not my personal clients, so they're a little bit different. They're not somebody I vetted, and they have all these lofty dreams, but they won't take even the first step.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They'll talk about it for years,
Yeah.
but won't do one thing about it.
Yeah. So I think for a lot of people, um, confidence is a step too far.
Yeah,
Confidence maybe is more of a destination,
yeah,
and we try to arrive at confidence, right? Because if you're confident, you don't need me, right? So
right.
what are the baby steps that are going to get you to where you want to be? Where you might be scared, right? And I guess one other misconception is like, once you develop confidence, you won't ever be scared again. You will always be scared. That scared is part of being human. But Tara, for at least for my clients, what I try to do is find an emotion and that will work for them. And often the people who come to me, because if you think about the people who come to coaching, they want to get help and they're looking and open-minded about new ways of getting help. And so I often use the emotion of curiosity, and curiosity can usually get them to the first step. I was in a master coaching class where I was coaching in front of 50 people and I was scared until I used my own coaching on myself. I'm like, okay, instead of being scared because I think of the thought that they're judging me, what thought would lead me to curiosity? And it's like, wow, I get to learn so much 50x in this one session. And so that gave me the one step I needed to volunteer to be that coach. So just offering that to your people there, if they are scared, try the feeling of curiosity and try to go, what can I learn from this situation?
Yeah, it's almost like you got to take yourself out of first position of I and move yourself to second position so that you can see it more objectively, and then
That's
that gets rid
beautiful.
of the it
Yeah.
shakes off that
Yeah.
absorption, because it
Yeah.
really is it's actually very self-involved to think that everybody's concerned about you.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
funny.
But that's what we do. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick, one last thing is, for people who feel like they have imposter syndrome, again, would you give that same advice, or is there anything else for people who feel like imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
Any
I,
other tip
I
for them?
think the imposter syndrome, where you feel like you're a fraud, just understand that those thoughts that we keep talking about are probably imposter thoughts. So you can do this with a coach, or if you can do this with just a friend, but have a thought and try to figure out what's wrong with it. I had a SVP. He was recently promoted, which is when imposter syndrome happens in a career, is when you're promoted typically. And he thought, wow, I don't belong in the C level because everyone has more experience. That's an imposter thought because he had exactly the right experience. Everyone else was in marketing. He was at a science marketing company and he had the science and marketing experience, an experience that nobody had. So his imposter syndrome, or his imposter thought, was saying everybody has more experience than me, but we were able to untangle those and find out that what was the imposter part of his thought. So that's what I would suggest there.
Great example. Great example. Well,
Mm.
we've come to the end of our time. It's gone by really very quickly. Didn't get to everything, but we got to
Yeah.
all the good stuff and all
Yeah.
the stuff that was necessary to get to. One last question I'd like to ask you is, given what you do and who you work with and everything around mindset and such, what is your one piece of advice to entrepreneurs?
Yeah. It kind of goes back to my Andy Bernard quote. I'll say it a little bit differently now. It's like, in order to get what you want, you can start being that person now. And I told you I had this visualization, and the visualization had all this, like, who I was going to be when I was a very successful entrepreneur. And then I gave you an example of how I could be that person now, by having those feelings now. For you, it's that recording in the past, which was the best time for you, right? And so you could actually create a recording of you, for example, in the future. This is who I am. This is what I do, and live into that now.
All right. Great advice. Thank you so much, Ken, for being a guest on today's program. If you'd like more information about our program, please visit us at www.michiganentrepreneurtv.com. Please join me again in the future when I interview another enterprising entrepreneur. Until then, wishing you the best of business.